deep question.
Okay.
This is a deep question. Did you ever go through a period? This is gonna go deep. Did you ever go in a period in your life when you were like in Japan, maybe as a kid, where you specifically spoke Japanese because you wanted to, like, maybe subconsciously or consciously, you wanted to be like to be accepted as like a real
of course.
Japanese person?
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Even though you grew up abroad.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like especially when I was a kid, that happened a lot because like I had a lot of like identity issues of like I wasn't fitting into Japan because I could speak English, and I wasn't fitting into Australia because I was half Japanese, right? So I was like, fuck, there was so many, like, I think I've told this story on Trash Taste before, like a long time ago, but when I was like, I was maybe like 6-7 years old, I was visiting my grandma with my sister, and she took us to like a supermarket, and she was like, all right, go to the sweets aisle, and here's 500 yen, you can get whatever you want, kind of thing, yeah. And so, we're picking it, and, Aki's, my sister's picking it, Aki, Ellie, my sister's picking through some stuff, and I could hear, there was like kids, Japanese kids, roughly around my age, so like, first, second grade, and they're like whispering to each other. Because, we're in middle of nowhere in Sendai. They've probably never seen a foreigner child in their life, right? So they're just like whispering, blah, blah, blah. But I could hear what they were saying, They were like, oh, look at these like fucking gaijins, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what came over me. There was maybe that like pride of like, I can understand what you're saying. So I was like, I'll show them. my 6-year-old mind was like, I'll show them. So really loud so they could hear in Japanese. I said to my sister in Japanese, I was like, oh, you're done picking what you want.
Yeah.
And my sister being, I don't know, 2, 3 at the time, caught onto it immediately. Replies back also in perfect Japanese, like, yes, brother, I am done. Let's go. And we decided to walk towards the kids, and the look on these kids' faces, man, you would have thought they just saw the face of God. They were like, it's like, he just Nihonjin? And so there was definitely that part where it's like I felt a lot of pride towards that side, especially while I was in Japan.
Yeah.
But nowadays, man, like I've lived in this country long enough where I'm like, I look like this. I don't look like your typical Japanese person. So obviously there's always going to be that wall of like, nah, you can't speak a word of Japanese. So I've just accepted that now.
Yeah, because I asked because I like went through the exact same phase where, obviously I can speak Thai. My Thai is not as good as your Japanese because it's very, very obvious that I have an accent basically.
Right.
Because even though I've lived in Thailand, I haven't like specifically I didn't like grow up in Thailand. So I've only really used Thai with like my parents, my mum and dad, which is why my specific Thai is very, very, very polite. To the point where wherever I go out with like any Thai friends, they're like, can you please stop speaking to me like you speak to your mum? And I'm like, I do not know how not to do that.
Right. It's only that way.
Yeah, because my mum didn't teach me any slang, any cuss words, anything else. So it'd be like very, very obvious. So when I was like growing up, and even when I lived in Thailand like 5 years ago, whatever, I did feel like that disappointment whenever people would be like, oh, you're a Hafu? Oh, okay, go off, you little foreigner, whatever. But yeah, I guess I got more and more comfortable with it, just accepting that, hey, I think growing up in like so many different places and so many different areas has just given you a unique perspective on the world where you might not exactly, feel like you're specifically accepted as purely like Japanese or purely Thai or whatever because you didn't have X experience or Y experience. But then I feel like we also have the unique experience where we've had, it's like the modern world of becoming like a cultural melting pot where we can connect to even more people because of the unique experiences that we've gotten.
Yeah. I mean, like, I obviously will switch to Japanese if the conversation is getting to a point where like maybe they're struggling to keep up with the conversation in English and they clearly want to keep talking to me, or if they specifically ask like, do you speak Japanese, or like, what's your nationality or whatever, which is a very common question to get thrown out in Japan especially. Then I'll switch to Japanese, and then we can go from there. But
I actually get that. Yeah, where are you from is such a normal question to ask in Japan. But then, like, if I asked that in the UK,
I'd be like, "What do you mean?
What the fuck you mean? Where am I from? Well, I'm from fucking here."
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a normal thing in Thailand as well. It's just like, oh, where are you from? Oh, you are Hafu? Or,
it's like, oh, you don't look or sound like me. Where are you from?
God, it's been so like. my accent as well, my accent entirely recently has been like fucking awful because it's like a tonal language.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe not getting practice with a tonal language is like, you know, when you know the lyrics of a song, but you don't know the melody of the song.
Right.
So you say, you know how it sounds, but like, I will have moments where I'm just like, okay. I got it. I got the tone.
It's like, hold up, I need a. It's like,
Yeah.
It's like if someone asks you, like, can you speak Thai? And you're like,
Yeah.
hold on, let me do my vocal warm ups.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, tonal languages seem like a nightmare to remember.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why it's so hard to learn for people who don't naturally learn any tonal languages.
yeah, you kind of have because there's only like a few tones, you kind of have a guess at like what it sounds like. But for me, since English is my first language, I know what it sounds like, I guess, phonetically, but then sometimes my tone doesn't match with my memory of the words. So I just have to like adjust it like mid-sentence.
Yeah, right.
Which people definitely notice.
So would you say then you guys have more fun now conversing with Japanese people as opposed to back
I might
then?
just speak better.
Yeah.
So
I guess because like now you're more used to it as well.
Yeah,
right?
way more used to the conversations.
There are still things that I still have trouble getting over, and that is the same things I have trouble getting over in English. That's just my social anxiety.
Yeah.
I will never get over going on a phone call. That shit terrifies me.
Yeah.
It just terrifies me even more in Japanese because I'm like...
because there's a million more dialogue options
yeah.
now.
I don't know why, but when I get a random phone call from a number I don't know, or a number or anything, it doesn't matter if it's in English, it's just even more terrifying in Japanese.
Yeah.
Right? In English, even if it's a call from the bank, I don't want to pick up the phone call.
Every time I see a phone number I don't recognize calling me, 80% of my brain is like, hang up now.
Right?
Like, don't even pick that shit up. It's a scam. Don't pick it up.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I do I never pick it up. I always Google the number.
Oh,
and
really?
if it comes up as a business that I like a postal service, I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And
That
I'll
makes
call them
sense.
back.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like, oh, it's the government building.
Yeah.
Don't know. Just don't want to. Just in case, like, I don't know, someone accidentally got my phone number and they're trying to like verify it's me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Just being cautious.
being cautious. Just being cautious.
Yeah.
All right, I picked one out. Let's see what it says. All right.
What do you got?
Being a foreigner.
Wow.
What does that mean? What does that
This
mean?
is literally-
Kind of the conversation we just had.
kind of conversation we just had.
I'll pick another one.
Yeah.
Does it get better to be a foreigner?
When do I not become foreigner?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess in that aspect, maybe it has gotten better because, you know, when you guys moved, it was right before COVID started, right? So you guys kind of experienced the Japan where there was little to no foreigners in the country. And now...
I mean, being a foreigner in Japan was also kind of weird during COVID because
Yeah.
you definitely felt like
how are you here?
like some people, they either think, how are you here? Or I feel like, I mean, just straight up like racism where they were like, oh God, you must have like COVID or something.
Yeah.
Like that definitely happened.
Yeah.
And that was definitely frustrating because that was like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. It's like, we're not the ones that started it.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know if this is a thing. I will say, obviously, like pre-COVID, but they're definitely like post-COVID or definitely during like the tourism boom, being a foreigner has felt different.
For sure.
I maybe like I feel like some establishments has had that foreigner fatigue. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, there used to be sometimes this excitement when, oh my God, there's a foreigner coming to this place or coming to this town or this area.
Yeah.
And now it just seems like, okay, another tourist. All right.
Yeah, I definitely feel over the years, there's definitely been a lot more just like unwarranted stigma towards foreigners visiting Japan, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes warranted stigma.
And sometimes warranted,
and
obviously,
sometimes warranted.
You know, but
I
like
think
I
also
also,
the news here definitely fearmongers with
of
foreigners,
course.
which
Yeah.
I mean we're also in a time globally where like I guess not liking foreign people in your country is a very common opinion, gaining a lot of popularity in the
And,
world.
you know,
So it's kind of it's normal.
yeah, especially coming off the backbone of last year, where I think it's like it was the most amount of tourists Japan has ever had ever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like close as well. And then on top of that, the COVID stuff as well. Definitely in the past 5 years, I've noticed that there are a lot more demographics, I guess, especially in the Japanese population, that have just kind of really just gotten a sour taste towards foreigners, whether that be warranted or unwarranted, which is a shame. But hey, what can you do? Yeah,
because I feel like, I feel like the thing before versus after was, you might have been treated differently, but I think it came from a place of like curiosity almost, where they just never experienced having a foreigner at this place or this establishment or whatever. Yeah. And it's been like a very subtle shift, and it's not everywhere. It's definitely not everywhere. I've just noticed in some places I feel like there has been some fatigue in terms of that dealings, and I can't really blame them. With the amount of tourism that's happened, it'll be weird if they always stay the same, but that's something I have definitely noticed.
I've also definitely noticed that there are way more establishments that have English menus now.
Oh yeah.
And I only know this because every time I walk into a restaurant, motherfuckers are always like, English menu?
yeah.
And I'm like, Daijobu desu, actually.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten that less lately. I don't know why though.
Really?
I mean, maybe it's the places I go.
I've gone, especially like growing up in Japan. Like there was like, if there was a place that had an English menu when I was growing up, I was like, oh, okay, this place is popular with the tourists.
Even when we came, I felt like it was only really the big chains.
Yeah,
exactly. And normally, sometimes the English menu was so unusable.
Yeah.
Like
Hanbei.
It was like Hanbei. Oh my god.
I mean, that's still unusable.
Yeah, Hanbei's
but also hilarious.
Yeah, and that's a great place to go.
Yeah,
Hanbei's a cool spot. You should go to Hanbei.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it's fine being a foreigner here, but yeah, definitely it's definitely changed. It's definitely changed a lot. COVID changed a lot of things, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And I still feel like we're not going to see the full effects, at least mentally, of what COVID caused for a little while. I feel like there's still a lot of people who have lingering thoughts.
I will say that one thing that has changed for the better in terms of foreigners, and maybe this is just from my perspective, but I feel a lot more younger people are way more open to talking to foreigners.
Yes, I'd say so.
Yeah, like when I was growing up, it was almost like the younger generation were just kind of almost fearful to talk because maybe they were doubting their abilities to communicate, or they just had little to no information about foreigners and foreigner culture. But I feel now, especially with all these tourists coming to Japan, and like now that the younger generation now have a lot more access to the internet and stuff like that, I just feel there's like more of a curiosity towards foreigners. Like I get a lot more people, just Japanese people, speaking to me in English in passing when I'm like walking somewhere, and I'm like, that never used to happen. There's this like weird, almost like
white boy.
Yeah, it's like you, white boy. There's like this weird increase of stranger friendliness, but still quite awkward.
Yeah.
If you compare it to like say America, but I feel it's definitely gotten a lot more. They're a lot more comfortable now because I feel that they're just more used to it now.
Right.
Which is I guess a good thing.